Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria. Today I am thrilled to have Katrina Mitchell on the show to talk about her experiences as a franchise owner and her current business called Speak, which pairs franchise-savvy speakers, trainers, hot topic facilitators, panel moderators, emcees, and entertainers with franchise systems looking to take their events to the next level. And really, for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to focus on Katrina's experience as a franchisee and then tie that in to how franchisors help franchisees continue to develop and evolve their businesses. So, Katrina, how are you?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast today.
Well, thanks for agreeing to come on. You have a fascinating background, and I'd love it if you could tell us about your experiences as a franchisee.
Sure, absolutely. And, I guess I'm a little flattered that you think it's fascinating. I think it's just, it's fairly normal in the world of jumping into franchising, finding a franchise that fits, and then really enjoying growing that business. So I got started in franchising, Josh, about, I think it's going to be 9, maybe 10 years ago. I was a franchisee, as you mentioned. I was a franchisee for one of the major home dog training franchise systems, and it was just really one of the very best experiences of my professional career for a lot of reasons.
Well, and tell me, how did you get interested in that experience?
Well, I actually had some friends that were franchise consultants, and so just through their working in that business, we were always chatting about new franchise systems that they were working with or franchise systems that they were familiar with, and it was very interesting. And one day she called me up and said, "I just found your next career," and I started laughing and said, "Tell me it's dog grooming." And she laughed and said, "No, it's dog something." And I had no idea that there were franchise systems out there that, were pet related or any of that. Now, I know there's a zillion different ways that you can work with pets in franchising, but it was very interesting.
So obviously you're a dog lover.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Josh. Always have been. And it just really appealed to me to connect with animals and to have my own business. And I think, when I was evaluating whether a franchise was the right opportunity for me, I made a list of the 3 key reasons that a franchise would be a right fit. And they were, number 1, I wanted a proven system and a proven model, that not something that I was going to be making up as I went along, but something that was already established and was proven. Number 2, I wanted the marketing support that a franchise offers franchisees. So I didn't have to create a website. I didn't have to, work on my logo. I didn't have to create a call center. I mean, there was I could go on and on. There's so many things on the backside of a business before you actually get customer facing that need to be taken care of. And buying a franchise, all of that was turnkey. All of that was done for me. And then the third reason for me, Josh, was the community. So being part of a group of people, having those peers and colleagues to learn from, both what to do and what not to do, certainly, but and people to talk to, and people kind of working together to to create more strength in the brand and help each other out. And so the community piece was probably one of the most important pieces for me personally.
Well, that's fascinating. I'm curious. I mean, obviously you went in and you gave it a great deal of thought, and you have these 3 keys that you base your decision off of. What other kind of due diligence did you implement before you decided on the franchise of your choice?
Well, I'm a little OCD, so I established a list of questions that I wanted to. I read the FDD, of course. I consulted with a franchise attorney, of course, and then I validated like crazy. And what that means, if anybody's listening that's not sure of what that term means in this context, it means calling existing franchisees and speaking to them about their experience with the franchisor in every aspect of their business. So in training and support, in marketing materials, in new systems and customer service, all of it. So calling, I think I probably called, when I joined my franchise system, there was 64. I was number 64 into the system. So there were 63 franchisees, and I probably spoke to 50 of them.
Wow, that is fantastic. I love that you mentioned that, because so often people short-sight that aspect of it. So often people go to a discovery day, or they talk to somebody within the franchise system that they're considering, and they ask them, hey, who do you recommend that I talk to? Well, of course, they're going to give you a few names, but you need to look deeper. You need to go further. And wow, it sounds like you talked to 50 people?
Probably pretty close to that. But I had a set list of questions that I asked every franchisee, so that I would have data to compare. And I wanted to make sure, Josh, that I spoke to franchisees who were very successful and very, very happy with the brand. Some middle performers, some that were kind of in the middle and going, well, this doesn't work, or this is great, but this is not so great. And then I wanted to make sure that I spoke to some of those folks who were not happy with their purchase decision, and I wanted to know why. I wanted to know, if I was going to make the decision, what exactly were all of the elements that were going to affect me once I was in. So
now, did you reach out via telephone, via email to these people?
Typically email, made appointments for when it worked for them to speak, and I didn't take up, too terrible much time too terrible much of their time on the phone. I was probably on the phone with each of them for 10, maybe 15 minutes. But that was, the being organized, Josh, and having it lined out, being very specific on what I wanted to hear from them. I think it made it a lot easier on everybody.
Now, did you get any bounce back? Did you find any franchisees in the system that were reluctant to speak to you?
It's been about 9 years now.
I guess the reason I ask that is, and I think maybe you can more broadly touch upon this point, is that when I talk to people and I tell them how important it is to talk to people within the system, a lot of times people will say, well, what am I really going to learn from that? They're part of the company. They're going to tell you everything good. And I said, no, if you really connect with somebody in a sincere way, you take the time and you approach them in an organized fashion like you did with questions, people will speak honestly with you for the most part. And if you interview enough people, you'll be able to figure out who's being truthful with you and who maybe is sugarcoating. Did you find that in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think getting abroad, and I don't think people need to, call everybody in the system, and the franchisor might likely, really discourage that, because these franchisees are running businesses. So I think the first part of that is being really respectful. So being organized, being courteous, reaching out to them in advance, scheduling an appointment so that it's at their convenience and not yours, and just getting to it. But I think establishing the rapport and just being open to say, I want to make sure we're making the right decision for our family, and asking questions like, if you could change any one thing, what would it be? If you could make this decision again today, would you? simple stuff, right?
Well, no, that's fantastic. And I mean, and you spoke of your first key being, the reason you looked at a franchise was because of proven system and model. And I'm curious, once you purchased the franchise, once you got into it, did you find yourself at all being able to lean on some of those other franchisees, being able, if you had a question about something as you were getting going, that it was beneficial for you to contact them?
Oh, absolutely. And I was really fortunate in the timing of my actual start date was right after an annual conference. And so at annual conference, I was able to create relationships with all the top performers, with all the folks in the system that were, really, really doing well. And so, as I got into my business and started to struggle with specific things, I had relationships in place outside of the franchisor to reach out to and say, hey, Mark, how did you do this? Or, hey, I'm up against this. Do you have any suggestions? So very helpful to have those peer relationships.
Oh, I think that's huge. I mean, I think that one of the things that people struggle with in business, just in general, is that they sometimes feel like they're on an island by themselves, you know, and having that support system in place through a franchise system is invaluable. It's fantastic. And you mentioned as your second key, the marketing support. And I spend a lot of time talking with people about how important it is that when you get into a franchise, when you first buy your franchise, it is so important to make sure that you have the marketing down from a local perspective, a local geographic perspective from where you are. Did you take the time to make sure that your marketing was all put together before you launched?
Absolutely. And, I was really fortunate, Josh, in that one of the very first franchisees in the system was such a tremendous mentor for me. I think he was number 6 in the system. And when I validated with him, I just thought, wow, this guy has got it going on. He knows what to do, and I'm going to do exactly what he did. And what he shared with me that he did is he actually launched all of his local area marketing and his referral relationship building 6 weeks before he went into training. So when he came out, he was literally taking calls and booking appointments while he was in the training program. So when he got out of training, he hit the ground running. He had revenue coming in the door the day he got home.
That is so huge. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I mean, because it touches on two really, really key points. Is a lot of people think that their local marketing begins when they open the doors. And the reality is, in most situations, it needs to begin ahead of time. You need to let people know when you're coming, when you're opening your doors, and provide that sort of, get that buzz, or at least get the word out. But it ties into another really important part, which is by doing that, by being prepared and by getting things, by marketing the business ahead of opening, you're really putting yourself in a better cash position potentially, because you're giving those people who may come to you thereafter an opportunity to really digest it and then come to you earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it was the best advice, Josh. I mean, I feel so grateful and so fortunate that I had Brian as a mentor and that he directed me in that way. And, now when I talk to franchisees, or I work with many franchisor organizations, one of the biggest struggles always seems to be this personal accountability and responsibility for your success. And I'm bringing that up now because I think it ties directly into marketing and local area marketing, is that just because you bought, not you, but just because an individual has purchased a franchise doesn't mean that the franchisor is responsible for driving people through your door. It's still, from my perspective, is it was still my business, and my success or my failure was a direct result of the effort that I put into getting my name out there, creating those relationships in my community, and making sure that people knew what our services were and what we were able to do for them.
Yeah, that's so huge, because, these are not businesses in a box, and that's a big misnomer in franchising. It's a big myth in franchising that when you buy the franchise, essentially you're buying a business that's going to operate on autopilot. And there's nothing further from the truth. I mean, you have to run the businesses. You have to be there in the business. You can't be an absentee owner. There's very limited circumstances where you can be an absentee owner and be successful, and you have to utilize your local geographic surroundings to your benefit. So yeah, those are all great points. I'd love to just kind of segue into your third point of community, because I think that ties in so well with what you're currently doing. And so I'd love to hear about what really attracted you from a community standpoint to franchising.
Well, I think the idea that you're connected, you're aligned with other individuals who are running the exact same business that you're running, and so they're having the same challenges, the same opportunities, the same potential successes. And so having that peer network and those people who have come before you, right? So, at whatever point you enter into a franchise system, unless you're one of the very first individuals, you're right at the front end, there's going to be people who have gone before you that you can learn from. You can learn from their mistakes and their successes. Hey, this works really well, or, I tried that and it didn't work. So.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And it is so key to franchising, and is one of the many benefits of franchising when it's done well. And I think it ties in perfectly with what you're currently doing in your current business. I'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit more about, because your current business does a fantastic job of really helping franchisors provide tools to their franchisees so that they can operate better as a community, so that they can be more educated on the products, services, on their businesses, so they can be in a position to where they can find better success.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. We love what we do, and I think, I feel in my heart that it does provide a valuable service to the franchise industry, and ultimately really helps franchisees. So what we do, Speak, or franchisespeakers.com is our URL. We provide franchisors with speakers, so keynote speakers, opening speakers, closing speakers, for their annual conferences. We also provide breakout trainers, workshop leaders, workshop facilitators. So we can essentially, Josh, help a franchisor develop their entire convention curriculum and get the right people. So, we want to have a session on profitability, or what about a session on gender-related sales skills, so selling to men, versus selling to women, or we'd like to have a workshop on on an exit strategy, preparing your business for sale. So there's just lots and lots of different breakout topics. We also provide hot topic facilitators. So in a situation where there might be potentially some strife or tension within the franchise system, we can send in a facilitator that's trained to really help work that through at the annual convention, or panel moderators. And oftentimes, this could all be the same person. The keynote speaker could stay and do a breakout and moderate a panel. And then we also, just because there's so much demand, and I'm so passionate about creating really, really fun, engaging franchise events, we started working with some very talented emcees, celebrity impersonators, magicians, game show hosts, so that we can really help franchisors create not only a very, content-rich learning event, but also very, very fun and very engaging experience. And so that's what we do in a nutshell.
Because after all, who wants to go to another boring conference, right?
Right. And, we're very careful to match the folks that we place with the franchisor, not only on their content, but on their culture as well. And I think that culture piece, just, and we could tie this into the prospective franchisee conversation as well, really understanding the culture of an organization. So for my current role, placing the right outside speaker, trainer, outside talent, they've got to fit culturally. They've got to seamlessly feel like they're one of the gang. Same thing when I think as a prospective franchisee, when considering buying a franchise, is really get a feel for the culture. Are they passionate about providing continuing education for their franchisees? If you're a passionate lifelong learner and you purchase a franchise in a franchise system where that's not part of the culture, you might feel disappointed. Now, if you're a passionate learner, you're going to always find a way to learn. So it's not only contingent about what the franchisor provides for you, but just as an example, really looking at the culture of that franchise system, I think is an important point.
So how did you come up with this idea? I mean, you launched this business, I think in 2008 is what you said. And it's a fascinating concept and idea, and one that, how did you come up with the idea? Did you find that this was something that was maybe missing? Did you find that you were looking for these resources and couldn't find them, and so you decided to create it? Or was it another reason?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always think it's just plain dumb luck. I knew that I was going to sell my franchise and move on to something else, and I had quite a few friends that, for whatever reason, were continually referring me to friends of theirs who wanted someone to handle their sales and marketing, and these were professional speakers. And I kept saying, no, I don't do that. That's not what I do. And then one day I literally smacked myself in the forehead, was like, wow, maybe I should do that, because these people keep asking me to do that, and maybe I should just do that. So yeah, it's been an interesting a journey along the way. I've learned a ton, and because we don't come from the speaker bureau speaker world, we come from franchising. Everything that we do and every decision we make is coming from the place of, how does this benefit a franchisee sitting in that audience? How does this benefit that, in some way, help that franchisee run a better business, a more profitable business, a less stressful business? And how do we help that franchisee realize their dreams when they bought a franchise, right?
Well, sure, yeah, and it's a classic example of the market dictating to you what the product or service should be. I think it's such a great lesson from hearing you speak about it, is that so many people, just when they start a business in general, they're always thinking, what's the product, what's the service, what's the angle? And the reality is, if you put yourself out there in an area that you are passionate about, that you believe in, where you think there's a problem, you don't have to necessarily have all the answers, but the answers will come to you through other people as you put yourself in the market. And it sounds to me like that's exactly what happened and got you in this current business.
Well, I totally agree. I think it's really, it's about service, right? It's about really, I just believe that we're all here to help each other. So if we're really coming up with a way to serve, it's, then you just figure out the rest of it. It just figures itself out.
So how does it work? How does somebody hire you? How does somebody contact you in terms of if they want to explore working with you? What should people do?
Okay, well, great question. Thank you. So the speakers that we work with are very carefully selected based on 3 criteria. And currently, we're not taking any new speakers on the core team at this point. I'm always interested in seeing what's out there. We have a robust file of speakers who are not on our website and not on the core roster that I still do book periodically. But the way that we select is, number one, an understanding of franchising, because communicating to a group of people who are independent business owners who have made a commitment and signed an agreement to follow a particular system is different than speaking to a room full of independent business owners who are not related in any way, who don't have to follow the system. And of course, it's completely different than speaking to a room full of employees. So it's just, there's a very unique relationship, and there are some, there needs to be an awareness about the inherent nuances of the franchisee-franchisor relationship. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, so, I mean, I love that one of the things that you're doing at the center of everything that you're doing is you're doing something that is obviously a benefit to both the franchisor and the franchisee. And I think it's so easy in this industry to get caught up in the polarizing debate of the franchisor versus franchisee. And it seems like what you're really doing is bringing people together that's going to have a positive impact and a positive experience on both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just really serves. It serves. And we don't work with every franchise company yet. We would love that. We're working hard at getting as many new clients as we can manage. But I want to just go back, Josh, to the number 2 criteria of speakers that we look for and how we evaluate our core team. Number 2 is they're expert adult educators. So they are they really understand how adults think and learn. So they deliver very interactive, very engaging sessions. And then number 3 is my personal favorite, and that is we have a no diva policy. And to me, what that wraps up is that they've got to be authentic. They have to be the same person on the platform as they are off the platform. They have to genuinely care about serving that audience as much as I care about them serving that audience. So that's our 3 criteria on the speaker selection side.
Well, I have no doubt with time you guys will take over the world.
Oh, thank you. No, I just wanted to mention one more thing, and that is that our services are actually free to the franchisor. So the way the business model works is the speakers pay our commissions. So having me and my team go to work for you as a franchisor and helping you find the perfect speaker to deeply and genuinely connect with your franchisees doesn't cost you anything. So it's really a win-win for everybody.
So how does that work? Well, that's amazing. So it doesn't. You work with the franchisor. So then, how do you get paid again?
The speakers pay our commission. So we take a percentage. We earn a percentage of the speaker's fee.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. When I tell franchisors that, they're like, "Really? Why wouldn't we be working with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I think you should."
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, listen, Katrina, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and schedule to come talk with me today. I'd love if you can tell people how they can reach you if they want to reach out to you, contact you, find out more information. Anything that any contact information you're willing to provide would be much appreciated, I'm sure.
Great. Good. Thank you so much, Josh. And thanks for the opportunity to be on your podcast. The way to reach me it's Katrina Mitchell, and our web address is franchisespeakers.com. I'll spell that out for you. It's Franchisespeakers, franchisespeakers.com.
Well, perfect. Thank you again, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.